Before we get into this review, I'd like to remind you guys that I'm doing a giveaway on my channel where I'm giving away 2 Funko headquarters exclusive Funko Pops and Adorbs on my channel. The link will be down below for that video, and you can find out how to win those Funkos. Also, hit that bell notification while you're at it. How's everybody doing? Justin Watches Movies here. Today we're going to talk about Birth of the Dragon, which tells the story of up-and-coming Bruce Lee and his controversial and to this day very mysterious fight against Wong Jack Man. Now, when I went into this movie, I thought it was a biopic. I thought this was a biopic about Bruce Lee and Wong Jack Man and the fight that was behind closed doors, and only about 13 people actually saw this fight and really don't know who the winner was. But watching this film, there was a focus on other people, and after coming out of the theater and then reading some more things about it, this movie is a biopic, and it takes inspiration from that fight and also classic Bruce Lee films to make this movie Birth of the Dragon. So not only is it a biopic about Bruce Lee and that fight, it is also creating its own story similar to Bruce Lee films. Earlier in the day, I was walking out of my bedroom and I walked into the kitchen. My wife and I just bought a shelf from IKEA the other day, and I left it in the middle of the room. I stubbed my toe on it pretty bad, and I actually think it might be broken. My pinky toe, it's bruised pretty bad. I wouldn't want to show you guys pictures, but I bruised it pretty well, and I actually think it might be broken. The reason I'm telling you this is because I had more pain watching Birth of the Dragon than stubbing my toe on that box. This movie really shouldn't be called Birth of the Dragon. It should be called Birth of the Steve. The reason it should be called Birth of the Steve because its main focus is on this young guy named Steve who is training with Bruce Lee. He meets Wong Jack Man and he is instantly inspired by his style. But he falls in love with a girl who is working at a Chinatown shop, and she's owned by the people who work at that shop. And he really doesn't agree with that, and he tries to get Wong Jack Man or Bruce Lee to free that young girl. Well, the people agree to free her if Wong Jack Man and Bruce Lee have a fight so they can make money off of it. The whole movie really is focused on Steve and his love for this young girl. It's very like Romeo and Juliet. This movie really is focused on Steve, Birth of the Steve. And Steve falling in love with this girl and trying to free her. That's what this movie is really all about. It's not really focused too much on the fight and the controversy and the messages going back and forth and building up the hype for this fight. It has that all in there, but it's really focused on Steve. And that's where I was really disinterested in and really upset. And I went back and read more about it and how this was inspired by all of Bruce Lee's films and the real fight, and so I really can see why they put this in there. But still, when you have a poster with Bruce Lee or the person playing Bruce Lee, and the title is called Birth of the Dragon, which is kind of playing on his movie Enter the Dragon, and you have all that, your film really should be focused on Bruce Lee. Even if he's new and upcoming in this movie, the time it's taken place, it really should be focused on him, not Steve. Steve is not Bruce Lee. Steve was actually a made-up character. It just should have not been focused on him. And that's where I feel like this is the biggest upset for me, the most underwhelming part of the film, is that it's focused on Steve a lot, focusing on him learning techniques, being introduced to this young girl, giving her booklets to where she can learn English and going on dates. That's what this movie is mainly focused on, and it really irritates me because I'm someone that admires Bruce Lee. I haven't seen a lot of his films, but something about the guy and his kung fu movies really do intrigue me. So I was going into this movie really excited to see something about Bruce Lee and a fight that's very mysterious, but it focused on Steve. For a fight that was regarded as legendary, as a guy that was regarded as legendary, nothing about this movie really does feel legendary at all. It plays a lot in the film where the fighting is very unbelievable. Up and towards the end, I feel like the last 15 minutes of this movie is really fun and very reminiscent of a Bruce Lee film. And that's what the most fun, and the action sequences in that are really well choreographed and really well timed, and I really appreciate the end. But for a good majority of this film, it does not feel legendary at all. The action sequences are very mediocre and they are very unbelievable. In the movie, the reason for them two fighting is very disinteresting, and you would think that two legendary fighters would come together and fight for some grand reason, but it's over a girl. It's over a girl that a guy is in love with, and that's the whole reason. And that's the whole reason that they fight in this movie. And it might not be the real reason in life that these two actually fought, but they're creating this story that is based on this fight and throwing in some other elements. And that element is this guy who's in love with the girl, and they both fight to free the girl. That is it, and it's very disappointing because I really would have loved to see something that was actually true. And some things were true, but overall, a lot of it was just added stuff to make a film with characters that weren't even part of this fight or weren't even involved in the fight. Steve made a character. So there was a lot of things that really did irritate me because I really would love to see a real biopic about Bruce Lee and that fight. And, you know, it regarded as very mysterious and not a lot of people know who won. Bruce Lee, a lot of people say Bruce Lee won, a lot of people say Wong Jack Man won. Who won? I don't know. But in this movie, I really did not care who won because the reason for them fighting is ridiculous and it just didn't feel grand. It didn't feel epic. It didn't feel legendary. As to what I read previously, before I saw this movie, I read up on the fight and, you know, his wife, Bruce Lee's wife, saying that it lasted 3 minutes. Some people said it lasted 20 minutes. I really would have loved to see that kind of play out, but ultimately it played out just like a made-up story that just really felt like it was going nowhere. So I'm gonna go ahead and give The Birth of the Dragon a D+. It was rather disappointing, and I don't recommend it to any Bruce Lee fans. If you've seen more than 2 Bruce Lee films, don't go see this movie. I've seen about 3 or so. I don't remember which ones, but I do remember Enter the Dragon and very much enjoying that film. But if you are a diehard fan of Bruce Lee, I think you ultimately were going to be pissed off while watching this film. I was not a huge Bruce Lee fan, and I was mad. And there are some people that really do seem to enjoy this film, because it's very reminiscent of some of his older films, but that's at the end of the film. Last 15 minutes or so. Everything else is just a joke. So if you guys have seen Birth of the Dragon, what do you think about it? Comment your thoughts down below on the film. You can find all my social media links and all my written reviews down below in the description box. You guys are the best as always. This is Just Watch Movies, and you stay classy, YouTube.